This week we're in Grand Island, Nebraska visiting Hornady Manufacturing to find out a little bit more about the development of the 6.5 Creedmoor cartridge, a cartridge that in its first 10 years of production has gone on to dominate the high power competition circuits as well as the sporting fields of North America. Now I'm holding here a Tubbs 2000 rifle, and this is the premier style high power and across the course rifle, and it's an important gun because this is one of the first guns to be bored and chambered for the then prototype 6.5 Creedmoor.
The idea for the 6.5 Creedmoor came out of basically shooting for a week at Camp Perry with Dennis DeMille, who I think everybody probably knows was a service rifle and match rifle champion. And at that time, he was the only distributor of the Tubbs 2000 rifle, and its big chambering was the 6XC. And he and a lot of his customers were rather frustrated with the 6XC chambering because there wasn't any standardized load data out there, and everybody was trying to hot rod the thing to make it competitive, and they had a lot of function problems, a lot of pierced primers, stiff bolt lift, all that kind of stuff. And he said, look guys, I want a cartridge I can buy off the shelf that will function, will allow me to be competitive at a top level, and all I gotta do is buy it, put it in the gun, and go to a match and shoot.
Number one, it had to be 2.8 inches long, the same as the 308 for the magazines that were out there in these across the course, high powers. The second thing it had to do, it did not have to achieve extremely high velocities, but it had to be inherently accurate. In other words, you had to feed this thing a few different recipes of powders and bullets, and it had to shoot, and it had to shoot extremely well. The 6.5 Creedmoor was originally spun off the 30TC case, and the whole reason that is the way it is because we built 30TC brass, and it was easy for us to take that basic brass, form it to 6.5, and play with that cartridge to see if it was feasible from a P&V, accuracy, all the performance requirements that we had talked about at Camp Perry. We needed to know if they were legitimate, that we could get those. So we basically took some 30TC basic cases, formed them down to 6.5, and started playing with it before we formally called it, Creedmoor.
It initially was highly successful in the match world like we had wanted. A number of people did very well with it, and we knew from the get-go that, hey, this thing would really have potential as a hunting cartridge because of how flat it shoots and how much energy it retains downrange. And the sectional density of 6.5 bullets is very, very high, and they have very good penetration. And that, immediately led us into, the hunting loads, the 129 SST Super Performance load and then the 120 GMX load. And people found out very quickly that, boy, this is a highly effective, very shootable hunting load.
There's not that much new out there. You can't really develop something from scratch that's just going to be revolutionary. But what you can do is you can come up with an improvement. And so in this case, because you had the people from Creedmoor Sports behind it who were adamant that it was an excellent cartridge for what they were trying to do for long-range target shooting. It was pleasant to shoot. It was extremely accurate. This was an easy one to build, and it fit into our philosophy of coming forward with a cartridge, a round of ammunition, but providing the hand loader with everything he needed to do to duplicate what we're doing. It's like, yeah, you know what? This is our heritage. This is where we came from. And so I guess all the stars aligned and it just clicked, and it was like, yeah, okay, let's go ahead.
Now we're talking about the 6.5 Creedmoor and its progression into being a really capable sporting cartridge. We've heard a couple people refer to it as kind of a giant killer, and it's definitely true that the ballistics are in your favor as the shooter, but I think there's also something to be said for that light recoil. It makes it very easy to make a good shot and to know you're not going to get kicked around by the cartridge.
Absolutely. It's a shooter's cartridge, and we're getting a ton of reports back from the field on people using this round, the 143 grain ELDX on elk, and having great performance.
Right, and I've used it myself quite extensively on both deer and African Plains game, had great success. But now we have maybe even a more capable cartridge in the 6.5 PRC.
Yeah, the PRC, Precision Rifle Cartridge. It's basically the 6.5 Creedmoor's older brother. You're looking at 200 to 250 feet per second more velocity over the Creedmoor with the same type of bull like the 143.
Yep.
It got its start in the match world, similar to the Creedmoor, but performance in the field and for hunting is going to be excellent.
Yeah, very similar path going from that great competition, accurate cartridge, and finding a place as a sporting cartridge as well. And in fact, we had one of those in Africa as well, a 6.5 PRC cartridge, and again, great performance on African Plains game all the way up to the poor man's buffalo, the blue wildebeest.
The overall cartridge and the chamber fit had to be right. That's how you achieve the level of accuracy that we achieve with the Creedmoor, is being able to design and build ammunition, cartridges, and chambers at the same time.
What we wound up with was a very compact cartridge that would go in short actions, very, very mild recoil, 2,700 foot per second, and this thing was supersonic to like 1,250, 1,300 yards, and it went from there.
It's just an inherently accurate platform no matter how you do it. And there's a great selection of bullets from us, particularly at this point in time. There's ELD match, there's SSTs, there's VMAX bullets, there's interlock bullets. There's a variety of different bullets that can be used and in different configurations within ammo lines. Its closest competitor obviously is the 308 Win. Fantastic cartridge, been a mainstay, been a stalwart of the industry for, since the 50s. But ballistically, the 6.5 runs away from it.
There's that group of people out there that are the early adopters. The people that are always want to be on the cutting edge, looking at what's the latest and greatest and things coming down. They aren't necessarily always looking for the fastest or the biggest or the heaviest. They're looking for performance. And that's what the Creedmoor does. It gives you performance.